Hi everyone, this is Holly from Hot Humble Pie. Well, today I have an extra special video. I've compiled all of my best DIYs from 2021 into one video for you. Each time I put up a video, I paid attention to the DIYs that you all liked best, and I put them all together in one place. And as always, I hope you enjoy the show. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you click that button. Saw this on Pinterest last year and I absolutely loved the concept, so I decided to make one of my own. I went to Home Depot and I bought 2 of these and 2 of these, and then I cut them. So I cut 5 12 by 12s of the bigger strips and the matching edges, and 4 10 by 10s of the bigger strips, and of course the matching edges. For the edges, you will need to make subtle changes as you go, and so I won't be able to give you exact measurements for that. You're going to have to measure as you go to make it fit your piece. This is a table leg. My son had 3 extra ones from some project that he did, and he asked me if I wanted them, and I said, oh my gosh, yes. If you don't have one of those little chair legs, wooden candlesticks that you find at the thrift store all the time, even glass ones if you're going to paint your tray, would be an absolute perfect substitute. This is me putting a hot wood glue stick into my glue gun, and this is the one I use. It's down below in my description box. There's a link to it, and it is amazing. I think it holds better than nails, and it's certainly a lot easier than screws, which sometimes go sideways and out of the wood and you can see it. But for this project, it works perfectly. I made a mistake on one of the pieces and I tried to pull it apart. Then I asked my husband to try and pull it apart just to test it, and he couldn't. It is there for good. So go slow. Make sure that you have everything straight and even, because if you don't, chances are you're going to have to recut wood. Same thing when you come to gluing the edges on your project. Make sure the glue is at the bottom part of your strips so that it doesn't ooze out and show at the top. It does have a yellow tint just like the cold wood glue, which by the way, you can also use cold wood glue if you have heavy items that you can put on either side to squeeze it together like my hands are right now so that it stays tight, and while it dries, go ahead and use the wet cold wood glue. Before you put the final edges on it, be sure to go ahead and mark your center where you're going to want to put your centerpiece. If you put your edges on, it's going to be harder to do that because the ruler won't lay flat. I mean, you can still do it, it just makes it a little bit more challenging. I liked to glue from the left and the right side, so I measured it. I don't know if you noticed I turned my tray. I measured it when it was turned, but when it came to gluing, I found it easier to go, have the pieces I needed to glue on the left and the right hand side. You can do whatever works for you. And now I'm just going to repeat the exact same steps for the top tray. I also did not want the top tray to be like a cookie cutter version of the bottom tray, so I deliberately made the edges, like the longer part of the edge, go on the vertical part of the strips here that I'm gluing together, and then on the other one, down below, the bottom one, I did the exact opposite. If you want yours to be looking the same from the side, where you don't have any seams on one side and then seams on the other side, on the top and bottom, make sure you pay attention to that as well. Next, I took my Ryobi cordless drill, and I'm just drilling a hole in the center where I had marked with pencil previously. There is a screw on the bottom of this chair leg, so you do have to press down and screw it into the wood, so the hole needs to be just a little bit smaller than the screw, and you get a nice tight fit that won't move. I also pre-marked the top of the bottom of the top tray so that I knew where the center point was as well. But even with doing that, when the glue is still liquidy, you'll see me, I'm start turning the tray around here because I keep rotating it and moving it to make sure that it's perfectly even from all 4 corner views. I like mine better without wooden feet. If you want to add some, you certainly can, but this is how it came out and I absolutely love it. For this craft, I used some of this molding that I got at Home Depot for another project and some plywood, and I cut it. And these are the measurements I ended up with. Now, I'm using the paint sticks and I'm cutting them off just at the very top, right where they begin to curve. And that's going to be the little part that makes the washboard. I was going to use the cookie tray from the Dollar Tree, and you certainly could do that. They would make a great faux washboard look, especially because they're bumpy. I've seen washboards that actually look like that, and that would be fine. I was just in the mood for a fully wooden washboard because I already have one that has metal that is a real one. That was actually my mother's, or no, I'm sorry, her mother's. Way back when we somehow ended up with this awesome antique washboard. So I thought it would be a nice look, and in the future I might put a little shelf on the bottom to make it more functional. So you saw me take there a little bit of wood glue and hot glue, and you can see I'm not mixing the two. That's really important. If you do that, you'll deactivate the hot glue there and it won't stick. It'll cool down too quick and you'll end up with just this big blobby glue mess that isn't holding anything together. And I'm gluing everything together. Now I found for this part of the craft it was easier to go from the front like that, just like you see me doing there. I'm so glad I could film this because there's no way I would be able to explain that if I was on a radio show, I'll tell you. But when you hold it this way, you guarantee that they're straight and level, and it just gives you more control where you want that glue, and you can wipe it off in the front. You can see where it's too much, which is handy too. And I did go back and reinforce it in the back. You could see me doing that just to make sure everything stayed together. I just took hot glue and reinforced in between the seams and on the sides. And now I'm taking some primer from Kills and I'm just going to give it one coat of white paint. Now this is a water-based primer. I didn't get the other one, and I bought a gallon of it for one project. I think it was a furniture project, and I just have so much left. And you guys, it dries looking like chalk paint, because this primer is really dry. I like that it's kind of transparent too, because it gives a very rustic, distressed look kind of naturally. It's not a real solid white, so it's perfect for craft projects. And I'm using it up, and I find it's really handy too when you want to put the cheaper acrylic paints on, because it gives a surface for those to stick on really nicely. So that works out well too. And here I'm taking a little bit of spackling and just filling that crack in. It was driving me nuts. I could have left it again. That would have made it look more rustic. I just felt it looked a little bit more finished. Oops, there's a little dry piece of spackling there. I just felt it looked more finished with that crack filled in. Now here's the printout that I created for this, and I was going to get it all ready to Mod Podge down, and I certainly don't mind Mod Podging. I did it with the first DIY. Sometimes it looks really good and it's totally appropriate, but for this, because I had gone to the trouble to cut all the wood and sand the wood, I thought, Holly, no, just take a few extra minutes. I think it took me 10 extra minutes to put some carbon paper down. The kind of carbon paper I use is also down below in the description box, and it gives it the look of an authentic ink stamp, and my antique washboard actually has that. It has an ink stamp of the company, and that's what makes it look so awesome. So I just wanted to, put it up a notch there for awesomeness. If you have a Cricut, use it, because there's tricks you can do to make that look antiqued as well. You can do reverse stencils, you can paint over the vinyl and dry brush it, but why not go for the real deal if you can? I love this. So I decided to use the black colored pencil from my Prismacolor pencils just to color in those words. I was going to leave them, but I thought they looked better colored in. And again, I'm using the color Pavement by Apple Barrel to do the distressing on this because it is white. I didn't want to go in with black. I thought it might be a little too harsh. You can go in with black, but just go really light. Use your fingers or a sponge to spread it and make it softer. But I'm just doing the little distressing and antiquing. But I think this came out absolutely gorgeous. I love this. I love every craft in this video today, you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. I love to hear from you. But we're all done. For this next craft, you're going to need an inkjet printer. This is my printer here that I used. I had a lot of questions about it last time. I did actually try to film it printing up, you guys, and I was so, oh my gosh, I don't know what was wrong with me. These last 2 days when I was crafting, I kept doing everything opposite of what you're supposed to be doing, but I pressed the camera. Like when I saw the red button that you're supposed to press to film, I thought it was filming. So I filmed the whole thing coming out of the inkjet printer. Everything was wonderful. And then I turned it off, and then I was filming while it was off. So the whole thing was really bizarre. But you guys, I did get at least the copy of the information about my printer. To be honest, if I had a laser printer, I probably would still give this a try because I think it would work. But I'm pretty sure if the material's thin enough, you could probably still do it. So one of the tricks I love doing to get wrinkles out without having to take my iron out is just using a squirt bottle of water and misting it. And then you saw me taking my hands there and kind of spreading it out and then blow drying it. That works brilliantly for me. I do it with my clothing too. And I'm in a hurry and I don't want to take a shirt off and there's a big wrinkle. I'll just spray it with a bit of water. It comes right out. And then I took some black poster board, cut it the same size as the paper that goes through my printer. And I'm going to go ahead and tape this thin material down as tight as I can on that paper. Now this material is the same thickness as probably a super thin pillowcase or a man's handkerchief. You could use, I think, if you have an inkjet printer. I don't know about other printers, but I think my printer and that line of printers could handle a pillowcase thickness just fine. The most important thing is that it's super firm on the poster board. Now, I don't mind when it comes out of the printer and has a little bit of ink smearing here and there because I have a rustic look and that looks more distressed, and it's fine if it looks a little dirty, I guess. If you wanted this to be a really clean look and modern look, you would want to find paper, and I'm pretty sure I've seen it sold before and I can't remember what it's called, but it's sticky on one side, so you can lay the cloth down on the sticky side and it won't move, because that's how that ink gets there, is the paper's kind of wiggling a little bit when it's going through. You could also try double-sided tape. That might work. I'm not sure. I can't vouch for it, but you certainly could try that. So now we're going to go ahead and run it through the printer, and this is what we end up with, you guys. But what I realized when I looked at it, I thought, wait a minute, that's too far to the right. What did you do, Holly? And I turned it around, and you can see on the left side there, see how I folded more material? It was thicker, and I didn't notice that. That was one of those weird upside down things I was doing this week. But you know what? Happy little mistakes, because it still came up so good. I was so pleased. I had another idea. And I want to point out too, that's what I'm talking about when you get those little ink stains. If you're not happy with that, you're going to want to use either double-sided sticky tape or a sticky paper in the same size as computer paper to lay your cloth down on. Now I'm just going to use hot glue here to close the seams up on this pillow, because I'm just going to use it for a decorative pillow inside a little apple basket. If it was on the couch, I would take out my sewing machine and sew, although decorative pillows on the couch, if you're not going to use them and be really rough with them, you still could use hot glue. So don't get intimidated or discouraged if you don't sew or don't have a sewing machine, because hot glue works just fine. And they even make glue for material, and it's washable. And yes, I have tried it, several brands, and it does wash up and it does work. It holds perfect. So there are always options out there if you don't sew. Now I'm taking some of the black poster board that I just used, and I'm going to put it between this material here, because there it is, you guys. It was perfect. Like, it could not have gotten any more perfect than burlap for Farmhouse and lace for French. I mean, I was like, thank you, Dollar Tree. I went with this ribbon here to put as a little garnish and trim on the end of this, and it was like the perfect theme. I love the way this came out, and I'm just gluing it down. You saw me fold the ends there, so it's nice and clean. And the poster board prevents the glue from going through the material to the other side. You may have noticed I tend to tap where I've glued down. By tapping it really lightly, that kind of prevents the glue from coming through the material or through the ribbon and still holds it down. That's just a little trick I figured out. Otherwise, everything looks like it has tons of hot glue. And I just stuffed it with an old pillow, and this is it, you guys. I love this. So I invite you to follow me on Instagram and on Pinterest. You can reach me there. But I really want to talk about Pinterest real quick, because I have a lot of new subscribers who may not be aware that I created a board for my subscribers' crafts. I absolutely love to see your crafts. Just like I love to craft, I love to appreciate what you guys do, especially if I've inspired you and you make something that I made, or a version of it, or just something that I made inspired you to craft something else. I love to see it. And a lot of people ask me, how do I share my photo with you? So you go to Pinterest, you create an account, and you upload your photo as a pin. And over there on Pinterest, you can private message people. So you just send your pin to me in the email, and I will get it and then share it to that board with your name. And we have some absolutely fabulous crafts. I mean, the page is huge now since I started. So I just wanted to create a place where we can also share your creativity with the world. And when I put it up on my Pinterest, it kind of helps get it out there so the whole world can enjoy your gift too. So make sure you send me your crafts, you guys. I love to see them. I am getting a lot of email now, so I'm kind of falling behind. I'm doing the best I can. If I don't get back to you right away, please don't get hurt or offended. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Just leave it sitting there, because I go through my emails when I can, and I love to see your crafts. So moving forward with the bucket saga in part 2 here, this is what we're doing with the other bucket. You're going to need some more dowels, and I'm going to glue the dowels this time on the inside of the bucket. so you have them nice and even. And now I'm using the Dollar Tree little wood pieces that you can get, and I took one of the Dollar Tree skewers, and I'm going to, now remember this is hot wood glue, so it's going to hold together really strong and it's not going to go anywhere. I'm going to take that skewer and just put it in the center there. I find that works really well as a brace to hold little rooftops together. Some of you may have guessed what we're making here. It's a wishing well. If you guessed that, you'd be right. And I'm just reinforcing it now with some more glue down the center. And this part, you just have to be patient and let everything dry really, really well before you move forward. But it's nice and sturdy when you're all done. Now I'm just taking another craft stick, you can see it there on the table, cut at an angle, and I'm going to put this on either side of the little roof there for decoration, but also for extra support. It's another brace that helps hold everything together, and of course it looks nice and finished that way. Using another dowel piece, I'm going to put the center in the middle. And again, you just have to go nice and slow with this. I don't usually use levelers or anything like that. I do it by eye, but if you want to, you could use a little mini leveler to make sure everything's straight. And now I'm just positioning the little roof. I'm going to be turning this upside down here to glue, and I just put little drops of hot glue up where the dowels are to hold it down. That works fine. Again, I'm using really strong glue, and I think regular glue might work for this, but if you really wanted durability, long-lasting strength, I would definitely suggest you use either a hot wood glue or a Gorilla Glue for this. And of course, what would a well be without a little handle? You have to have the little handle on. Now, I was thinking they have those little tiny mini buckets at the Dollar Tree in the wedding section. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? That would be probably really, really cute. Or you could actually hand make a bucket too. If some of you, if you follow me, you've watched my videos with the little miniatures that I make for tiered tray decor, you would get a lot of ideas from that, how to make a little mini bucket, but that would be cute to add if you wanted. My husband came up and saw this, and he doesn't, he rarely comments on my DIYs. He'll say they're nice, but he really liked this well. I have no idea why, and he wanted me to paint it white, and so we compromised because I was going to do it brown. So we compromised, and I'm distressing it a little bit, and it's white. But I guess we'll be keeping the well for a while. It's really, really cute. I'm going to put it on my front porch. And when I say for a while, I mean, it's because I make hundreds of DIYs, you guys. I honestly have to keep rotating them, and my decor changes a lot because I don't have the room. I mean, I wish I had a mansion like a hotel where I could keep all of them, but I don't. But I love all of them. So on my front porch, I'm going to fill it with seasonal florals. So in the fall, it'll be fall leaves and maybe cotton stems. In the spring, lavender. In winter, pine cones and pine, but very cute. I love this. Of course, you're going to need an oatmeal container and some paint sticks. I order my paint sticks from Amazon. The link is down below in my description box. And this is the top of the toilet plunger from the Dollar Tree. Now, I get the paint sticks without the curvature at the top. I prefer that because I personally would cut the wood off at the top. There's a few DIYs that little curvature wouldn't bother me. And in my paint stick video, in case you missed that one, I'll link it at the end of this video. I actually show you some ideas what you can do with the top of those paint stick little pieces, just so you don't have to throw them away. Now, I'm going to cover this entire thing with the paint sticks. And I got this idea last summer, and then all of a sudden the fall season was upon me. It turns out in the crafting world of YouTube, the fall season begins pretty much by August 1st, sometimes even earlier. You see creators, they'll be as early as like the 3rd or 2nd week of July. And it's because the people who love fall, and there are millions of us, we like to decorate beginning in September because it's not really a long season and then you move into Christmas. So in order to have time to get all the crafting supplies that you need and then make the things that you need and have them ready to go by September, you really do have to have the ideas ahead of time. So I've just been showing you that I'm using masking tape to hold down these craft sticks, and I just traced a lid. We are making a life-size butter churn, and of course I have to have a center hole in this lid for that stick to go down. I have wanted one of these for so long. I think they're perfect actually for fall, and if you like Farmhouse all year round, even Cottagecore. This is just such a cute if this was in a kitchen, if you have it decorated country core or farmhouse, or if it's in a living room by a fireplace, anywhere you have your little farmhouse decor or country decor, cottage decor, perfect. It's so cute. Wait and see how this turns out at the end. It is so cute. So I'm just being very careful before I make that final commitment, because I am using the hot wood glue to glue the piece down to the final craft stick in the back, because I'm using little tiny craft sticks to hold this together on the underside. No one's going to see this. I just want to make sure that that plunger piece will go through, because the little wired end there where it twists into the plunger top gets caught really easy. So you really want to make sure you've got lots of room there, but not so much that it's going to flop to the side. So I cut a hole on the bottom of the oatmeal container. The oatmeal container is actually turned upside down on this DIY. Now I'm using my water-based stain with a baby wipe, and that's it. I'm going to stain this whole little baby up, and it's going to come up so cute. And this is what it should look like when you're all done. So my wonderful subscriber who wishes to remain unnamed sent me a craft supply box a while ago, and in there was this awesome metal ribbon. I love this stuff, and she said she got it from a craft store that closed down, so unfortunately you'd have to go hunting for that. I have a feeling Michael's or Hobby Lobby would probably carry something like that, or definitely online, but it just doesn't get any better than the real metal. This was awesome. Now I was worried at first the hot glue wouldn't hold it, because it didn't seem like it would just logically, but surprise, surprise, hot wood glue, like I said, it's got some meat in it because it held just fine. And I made this about 6 weeks ago and it's still holding just fine. So we'll see when the temperature changes come. If it changes, I might have to put a rubber band around it and use some kind of E6000, but this came up so gorgeous. You're going to need two, one large one, one small one, some cardboard, some of the basket reed, and some of the Dollar Tree faux leather. And I'm taking that trick again with the paper and pushing it around for the size. I find that works the best. And I'm using the knife to cut. That did end up being the best method, the paper and the utility knife. And I'm just using the one from the Dollar Tree, but that ended up being the best method for an even perfect measurement and a smooth cut that doesn't require any sanding. So now you're going to trace the container tops onto the cardboard, and you're going to be tracing 2 circles of each. So I did one for the small container and one for the larger container, and I'm just here kind of cutting off the edges to make it easier, because I plan on cutting these with my scissors. You can see them up there in the right hand corner, and it's just easier if you get most of the cardboard, cut off. That way you don't have to fight with it. Now you're going to hot glue the two cardboard pieces together for both the large and the small. And make sure as you're doing this that you check for a fit, because this is going to be a lid, so you don't want it to fall through the center. And I'm using the Dollar Tree glue stick. This works really great for me. One subscriber came on and said that she bought some and they weren't sticking. So I did buy some more packages and I haven't opened those yet. I haven't needed to, but I'll let you know as we move along if the quality control has changed. But the ones that I originally bought that were in a package of 8 are outstanding. So I have this paper that I ordered from Amazon, and it's down below my description box. A link there if you're interested. You get quite a bit for your money. It's like antique paper, really, really pretty. And I decide that I'm going to go ahead and cover them using that paper and the glue stick. Now, when you use the glue sticks, you do have to apply a generous amount. And I really want to stress that you can't miss any sections, and it can't be scant where you're just kind of rubbing it real quick. You want it caked on there really, really thick. And maybe that's why mine sticks so well, because I'm really generous. But 8 sticks for 99 cents. Even now they've reduced the package down to 4. Still 4 for 99 cents. You cannot, or $1, you cannot beat that. So here I am. I'm cutting the top part, and I'm leaving a little overhang again because I want to tuck that around. And I think maybe if I had to do it again, I would have left a little bit more of an overhang. It's totally up to you, but you know, it would have looked prettier maybe further down in the container. But again, it came up beautiful, but I just left a little bit. And I'm using my spatula. You can get that at the Dollar Tree, Walmart, or Amazon. I have a link down below my description box if you're interested in the spatula. It's a silicone spatula, and it doesn't melt, and it saves your fingers. And now I'm just covering the lids with the paper as well. I used this really pretty stripe paper for the small container. And here's what the faux leather ribbon is for. This is going to be the edge of the lid, because we're making little mini French hat boxes, you guys. They come up so cute. This is one of my favorite DIYs too in this video. I love this. It's on my chest of drawers. I think it's so cute. But you go very gentle. Don't pull it, because if you pull or try to press too hard, you know, if you press the ribbon too hard, you'll make it kind of go to an angle, and you don't want it to go to an angle. You want it straight down just like that, so it fits like a lid. So that's what it should look like when you're all done. And then these are some free printables that are available on the Graphics Fairy website. I've been using her for years. She's very, very generous. All you have to do is go on her website, graphicsfairy.com, and put in French hat boxes, and this comes up in her search. So, you know, I resized them a little bit. I just downloaded them and then dragged them into my word processing program so that I could adjust the size. That's a nice little trick. And now I'm using Country Tan because I just wanted to age these just a little bit. This is a paint I've had forever, and I was worried that Apple Barrel didn't make it anymore, but I checked. You can still buy it online. So I don't think Walmart, where I live, carries it, but I absolutely love the Country Tan. I'm running out of it, so eventually I have to get some more because I think it's like 15 years old. Those paints, you really get a good bang for your buck. But here I am just aging the labels a little bit. Doesn't that look pretty? That Country Tan just gives a color that I can't get with any other color in the Apple Barrel line. For this kind of aging, I love that. It's just that really pretty, soft mocha color. And now I'm using the burnt umber. And I'm going to be using this for the lid because up close you can see a little bit of the hot glue between the ribbon and the, you know, where the ribbon and the cardboard meet. Because hot glue is a little lumpy, you can see just a little bit. So this totally works to camouflage it. I just go around and age it. You can see what I'm doing there. I'm just dry brushing a little bit on the edge, and it just adds a lot of, I think it adds a lot of charm too. So I do it for both the large lid and the small lid, and that's it. I absolutely love this DIY. For this DIY, you're going to need one of these Dollar Tree baskets, and I'm going to dress mine up a little bit. I start with freehanding a shape on that I think looks really expensive and high-end. I kind of see these shapes in Anthropologie on their baskets, and so I'm just going to dupe it here. And you don't have to make it perfect because you're going to end up painting it, so if the lines are a little crooked, don't worry about it, but you can see the shape I did. And then I take my painter's pen in black and I trace that as a boundary because it is a basket, so it has that weave and it's a little uneven, and I didn't want to have to rely on a paintbrush to get a really straight line. So I paint the center with a paintbrush, but just the edges I do it with a paint pen. You could probably get away with a permanent marker as well in black, but I just thought that was a safer route. So I start off with this watered down brown paint, and I end up with this light stained color here, and it's a little bit too light for me. This is personal preference, so you can stop wherever you want. Because I'm doing like geometrical designs, I can't water down the paint and put it in a spray bottle and spray the basket. That's what I would normally do, because I do not have the patience for like tea stains and coffee stains, you guys. I never have. I have always watered down paint and put it in a spray bottle. I actually did 200 coffee filter roses that way once. I put them all on the garage floor on a tarp, put a creamy yellow color in a huge spray bottle, sprayed them all. It worked perfect. So I'm also doing the inside there just because you're going to see that, and I'm painting the basket part. Now when you paint these baskets, because there's all uneven, like, you know, it's kind of more 3D edges, you do have to kind of tap your brush like you see me doing right there to make sure that none of the wicker is showing, but it came out great. And now I'm taking a Dollar Tree plunger, just the wooden part. I cut it into 4 little legs and I stained it kind of dark black because I wanted it to be striking and match the rest of it. And you only need hot glue. Once the hot glue dries, these legs are stuck on there. You do not need screws, but this was such a cute upgrade to this basket for a planter. I think it looks so high-end. I love this. For this DIY, you're going to need one of these Dollar Tree planters. I made some of my own cream paint using the apple barrel paint in antique white and a bit of white acrylic paint, and I made that cream color, and I poured it into a styrofoam cup, added some baking soda and some sand. You can get sand now at Dollar Tree, and it doesn't matter what color sand either because the paint totally covers it up, but we're just looking for texture here. I wanted this plastic planter to look more like cement or stone, and I wanted a lot of texture. I thought about adding salt, but I was worried maybe it would dissolve, or I've never done that before and I didn't want to ruin this. Let me know down below in the comments if anyone's tried salt. I have worked with Epsom salt before and that stays fine, but I've never actually used table salt, and I was thinking that would make great texture. I just didn't know how it would hold up under the, over the long haul. So there we go. We're tapping. So we do one coat and then we do the second coat with tapping because I want more texture. My first coat didn't quite give me enough texture. So there we have it. Now it's looking more like a concrete wall. And I'm just taking a little bit of the apple barrel paint in Country Tan with a sponge, and I'm going to sponge it on, and I'm going to be using a little gray color as well. And just until I get the look that I want, you can use any gray or brown that you like, but I just really was surprised at how it took this cheap looking plastic container to a super expensive, it even feels expensive looking planter. going to need this wood here, and we're going to cut it. Shout out to my husband there for helping me out. I had pet our cat, and I'll tell you, I usually have to rinse my hands. Even though I'm not totally allergic to him, I can't stroke him and then just rub my eyes, and I totally forgot. So my eyes were tearing and I couldn't see, and I honestly didn't feel safe with the circular saw, so he helped me out on that one. But you guys, power tools are the great equalizer. No matter whether you're 18 or 80, even with arthritis, if you have like a miter saw, anyone can cut wood. It's amazing. They really are fantastic for that reason. But here I am taking wood glue. I've spoken about this many times in videos. Wood glue has the ability to hold raw wood together at a molecular structure so that it becomes one with the wood. Like if you try to pull this apart once it's fully dry and cured, the wood will often break off with the glue because it's that strong. So even though I'm going to put these handles down on either side and hold it together that way, and I'm going to go ahead and you'll see me use a nail gun in a minute, I'm still gluing the planks at the bottom together just for extra stability, I guess, and strength so that this tray holds together. So you can use hot glue at this point if you want. I didn't. I just went with the wet glue because I didn't want it to raise up in any levels. I was a little nervous about that. I wanted it really, really flat, and I wanted time to reposition things if necessary. That's the one good thing about wet glues, you guys. I don't know how many of you have used hot glue before and then glued something down and went, uh-oh, that's not straight, or that's not where I want it, and you have to tear it apart and you actually damage your craft. So there's definitely pluses to waiting it out and letting things dry, because you get, you know, some time to move it around. And I obviously cheated a little bit there because I was using the nail gun, which kind of works like a hot glue. It holds it, you know, right away so I could paint. Now I'm just using the paint called Craft Smart. I bought it on a whim from Michael's. It's really impressive. It's a one-coat acrylic paint, a lot cheaper than Waverly chalk paint. It dries super matte, looking like chalk paint. A lot of people don't realize that the Waverly chalk paint is just acrylic paint with the additives in, like calcium carbonate and different chemicals so that it doesn't clump. It is not like Rust-Oleum chalk paint. So if you find a good acrylic paint, go for it. Now here's a free printable down below in my description box. I broke it up in 3 different strips for those of you that want to create the tray, and then I'm going to upload the one that is just all together in case somebody just wants to make a sign, a cute little, this would make a great little sign with a frame around it. But I found it too difficult to get each word big enough for the planks. You had to make them different sizes on my printer, and I'm guessing you guys are going to run into the same problems, so I'm going to upload those separately for you just in case. So I tried the pencil trick, you guys, and it just didn't come out dark enough, so I resorted to my carbon paper, and that worked out great. The top one I did trace over a little bit with the pencil afterwards just to make it darker, but it was going to be way too hard to do the whole thing with pencil. And I'm just tracing these words down the board, and then I'm going to use a combination of a fine tipped Sharpie, a thick tipped Sharpie, and black paint to fill these in. And I love this. So this look is a really hot look. It's kind of a ribbed look where there's a look of like seams everywhere on vases and planters, and I want to see if I can recreate that. So I'm using the top of the Dollar Tree plungers. Yes, you guys spoke. I heard you. You guys asked if I could do that, and yes, I can. So here we go. And I'm using these cans that were chicken breast cans. If you don't have those, you can substitute them with the inside of the masking tape. Or Dollar Tree sells these little round cylinder containers here, and you can slice those or just use the lid part. Be creative. It's totally up to you if you don't have any cans, but we're just going to try and recreate that look that's really in right now with the different, where the whatever the vase is or the planter is, it looks like it has seams. Usually we try to hide those seams, but right now it seems to be on trend that those seams are showing. So the first thing I do is I glue 2 of the cans together, and then I glue the plunger into the open part of the cans. So we have 1 can with a plunger in it, and then 2 cans piled on top of each other with a plunger in it. And I'm using the Fix All Adhesive by Super Glue. You cannot use hot glue for this, it will not work. You do have to use a stronger glue like E6000 or Super Glue, but you have to wait and let it dry. Now to recreate that look, I end up using the twine from Walmart. I burn off all of the fur, take it outside, spray it with some black paint, and I hate it. I think, oh no, this looks terrible. It just didn't, there was something missing. Maybe it's because the black paint was flat. Maybe I needed a high gloss paint, but what I think I really needed, and I realized looking at it, is texture, because you could just tell it was twine because it still had that furry look, and I didn't like that. So I had some of the paint left that I made to make that faux concrete on that planter, and I knew it would be perfect. It would add just enough texture. It would totally hide the twine, and it would just create a really high-end, modern-looking planter made completely from toilet plungers. So this is probably my favorite DIY in this video. It's one of them. I love the way this came out. Look at that. It's beautiful, and I'm going to show you 2 different ways you can use this in the upcoming reveal. So I saw this bowl at the Dollar Tree, and I loved the texture on the outside. I just thought it would make such a high-end looking planter. It just kind of lends itself to that because it looks, it's supposed to be like a faux crystal. But I thought it still has that plastic look. So at first I was just going to spray paint it, and I thought, no, it won't be enough. It'll still look kind of cheap. So I was worried about that. I didn't know that for sure, but I was worried about that. So I'm taking some spackling and a sponge, and you can see I'm just applying it like you would frosting on a cake. It's really, really easy. And I'm going to cover the entire bowl, but not the outside. The outside already has that really cool design on it, so we're leaving that alone. And now you need a round object. I chose a wine cork. So this is something I saw on Pinterest. It's definitely a Pinterest inspired craft. I believe it originally came from Home Talk, but you just spin little circles all over the inside of your spackling while it's still wet, and it's supposed to imitate hammered copper. Now, I'm not sure if mine came out exactly like hammered copper, but I absolutely love the texture that it ended up coming up with, whether it looks like that or not. It just looks so, so pretty. And when you're in home decor stores, any kind of texture goes. I don't know if you noticed that. So if you come up with something that's really pretty, go with it. So now I'm taking that little fix-all again. We're dealing with plastic on plastic. Again, a shiny surface, and hot glue just isn't going to cut it. and that's a lid to a protein drink that my son was drinking. I kept lid just in case I needed it for a DIY, but you can use any lid that you can find or anything that you want to rise this up with. You can even put little legs on it if you would prefer. I just wanted this look because it's really on trend and I think it looks really pretty. Then I took it outside and gave it a coat of this hammered spray paint, and this is what we ended up with. Look at that, you guys. I hope the camera does it justice because it came up absolutely gorgeous. For this first DIY, you're going to need this super cute Dollar Tree mirror or a mirror like it. And I'm trying to show you the designs here. It has absolutely beautiful designs. And when I saw it at the Dollar Tree, I snatched it up. I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. And you're going to need some scrap material that's see-through and sheer. I'm showing you here how it's sheer. I'm using an old runner that I have laying around and some Dollar Tree lace ribbon. But you can make, mix and match this any way you want because in the end it's yours, so make it your own. But I'm just going to give you the general idea of what I did here because we're going to make a French country decor piece. So the first thing I did was paint it with some primer. It was the Kilz primer, K-I-L-Z. And definitely do that because I tested it and painted a little bit of acrylic paint at the bottom and it started peeling off right away, and I thought, we're not doing that. So we did the primer first. You can take it out and spray paint it with primer too. It was just raining that day, so I'd stay in. And then I took some pewter gray. I did a dry brush over it to kind of darken it up. And then you saw me take a little burnt umber there just to add some shadow, and I wiped it away, but it still changed the color a little bit, so it wasn't totally the pewter gray. And then the last thing I did, which I really loved, was I took a white sponge with paint and just tapped it lightly on top of those designs to deliberately bring them out. And this is what we end up with here. We've got the shadows underneath and the whiteness on top, and I love the way that this came out. So the next step, of course, is cutting that material. We're going to cut it. Well, I'm saving the little trim for another DIY, so that's a separate issue for me. But just cut your material in strips. You're going to do long, even strips, and don't be concerned if they're jagged on the side or crooked. The more, the more imperfect they are, the more perfect they will look for this particular DIY. So that's all I'm doing now, is just cutting this material into strips. So you definitely want this craft to have an uneven bottom with different lengths. So I'm grabbing each one of these now and just, I'm going to grab it like a bouquet, I guess, and make sure the top of it is even. If it's not perfect, you'll see me trim it a little bit later in the video, but more or less you try to get it even. Then you're going to take that Dollar Tree lace ribbon, tie it on that handle really tight into a knot, and kind of flare out the top the best you can a little bit. Don't make it so it's really small and skinny. I don't know if that translated correctly, but you can see me kind of fanning it out so that it looks like a fan, and when you tie it really tight, it will almost turn into like a little flower bloom. It looks really cute. You can see it right there. And then I made a really pretty bow with a Dollar Tree ribbon. That was just a floral bow. I've got some videos on that. If you're interested in learning how to make those, there's a lot of wonderful YouTube videos on that. I know other channels show you in detail how to make floral bows. They're very simple. You just loop it around your hand and tie it in the middle. And of course, the French country look is a very romantic look. So I'm taking these pearls, also from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue 3 of them in the middle of this bow. And last but certainly not least, I added some delicate baby's breath type flowers to this and some greenery, and it gave it that perfect finishing touch, and I absolutely love the way that this came out. This is a Pinterest find. It's my inspiration piece. It's that tray, you guys. I saw this tray. I absolutely fell in love with the colors and the energy of it. So we're going to try and recreate the energy here with another tray. This is a tray I got from the 99-cent only store for 99 cents, but the Dollar Tree certainly has plenty of trays you can use. And I took it outside. I gave it one coat of white primer by Rust-Oleum spray paint. And now I'm using Granite Gray by Apple Barrel Paint. This is a gray that I use because it almost looks like a blue gray. Now I do end up using a little bit of blue just to kick up the blue vibes a bit more when I'm working on distressing this, but we start off with the Granite Gray. Now I'm using the Dollar Tree wood pieces right there because they're going to make perfect little rustic legs for this tray. I don't have the ability to recreate the kind of legs the original tray had, but I definitely like that it was a riser type tray. So I'm using these little wooden pieces, and I went through a whole bunch of them, found even ones, and they worked perfect. It's actually completely level. It doesn't wobble at all. So that's nice to know. If you guys have access to those wooden pieces, you can use them for little feet, and they're great for a rustic decor. Thank you to my subscriber who sent these to me I think she sent them to me before fall, and I'm kind of milking them because I'm trying not to use too many. I'm really taking my time because I absolutely love those little wood pieces, and I haven't been able to find them in any of my Dollar Trees, and I'm almost wondering if it's because it's the kind of wood. Maybe it's not allowed in my state. I don't know, but they're not selling them in my Dollar Tree. So you saw me take some black there and just go over with a dry brush, and now I'm using antique white from Apple Barrel to do another dry brush, and of course my favorite burnt umber. We're going to use a little bit of that. I'm using a combination of colors, and I just keep working with this tray and working with it and working with it until I get the look I like. I will give you a breakdown of the colors in the order that I used them. My first color, and they're all Apple Barrel paints, was Granite Gray. Second color was black. Third color was antique white. And my fourth color was burnt umber, and then I'll add a little bit of baby blue in there. You can see it right there, just to kick up the blue a bit. That was not Apple Barrel, actually. That was just an old paint, but any baby blue would work, and you don't have to do that. That's optional. And now I'm just adding some black into the curves there to try and create an illusion of a bit more depth. And we're going to continue with more dry brushing, more smearing, and just more, working on this tray until we get it where we want it to be. So I'm adding some more black, and then when the surface is a little wet there from the sponge, I take advantage of that and I add the baby blue to kind of give it more of a blue haze all over it. And of course, to make up for the fact that I don't have those awesome legs on the original tray, you're going to see me use some awesome stencils. I have some beautiful stencils another lovely subscriber sent me. She said she got it from Dollar General, but someone came on and said she also saw these at the Dollar Tree, and they are perfect for French country. And it just gave it such a beautiful French country accent. But you'll have to let me know in the comments if I failed it or nailed it. I love this tray. Now this box was holding chocolates. It was a Christmas gift, fair trade chocolates, you guys. And really pretty box, but just not my style. And I've been kind of keeping it in storage because I thought, I didn't want to throw it away. It's a really great thing to put chargers in if you have a lot of chargers in your house for your phone or something, that kind of thing. These are great little things that keep things hidden. We always need that. So I decide to try and create this, I'm going for it. I'm going to try and make it wood. It's like a cloth that's furry, but when I paint it, all of the fur that you kind of see on the edge there gets squished down and it looks totally flat and it comes out brilliant. But I wasn't sure at first. This is all trial and error, but I thought if this doesn't work, I can't use it. I'd have to give it away, so I might as well try. So I start off by giving it the paint. Again, it's the Behr paint, the interior paint that I mentioned in the beginning of the video. I give it one coat of that, and now I'm just taking acrylic paint and I'm going to dry brush it all over. Now you can stop here if you want, because this kind of creates the look of that old dirty like barn wood, but I wanted to make it look like wood. For those of you that watched my Halloween video, I did that with a tray. This is how I go about making wood. I always start off with black. The black gives it a really good base. I don't know what it is about black, but it adds some kind of depth that when I'm all done, if I skip it, it doesn't look as real. I don't, that's been my experience. But you do whatever makes you feel comfortable, you guys, and whatever you find works for you. I do a dry brush. Now you can see here how it's getting drier and drier on my brush, so we're getting almost a cloudy look. So now we're getting the cloudy look on the black. And the next step is going to be to use the color Burnt Umber by Apple Barrel, and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with the white paint, and then we're going to have a fourth color coming up here in the next step. And yes, you guys, that is little white splatters of paint. This was a really messy process because I'm really swishing that brush really light over it. A lot of you ask me, how do you keep your clothes clean? You always craft in such nice clothes. I don't. I have like 3 black shirts that are identical, and I hope every time I wash them that the paint comes out, and so far so good. And I do wear an apron sometimes that you can't see if I'm really getting down and dirty. So now I'm taking the Territorial Beige by Apple Barrel Paint. This is the next color that I always use for wood. And I'm going to do the exact same thing, except this time, when you get kind of like a bigger blob on it or a bigger streak, you do take a little bit of Kleenex or a baby wipe and you just smear maybe one area on each side. This kind of craft is by eye, so if you're kind of content with the way, there I go, I'm doing it right there because I want a little bit of a smear. And I'll show you close up in a minute what it looks like and why I do that, because it does add more of an aging look to the wood. But this is definitely a by eye thing. If you're content and happy, just leave it the way it is. I was going for a very specific look with the wood, so I kind of like things to look like they're old and weathered. So you'll see me do it here in a minute. I'm going to pull up that cloth and I'm going to wipe it one more time, and I get almost like a different color altogether. And that kind of imperfection happens with old wood, so I like that look. You can skip it if you want to. You don't have to do it. Here it is right here. I'm going slow to show you. You see that? It almost pulls up a whole different color like a gray or something, and it just adds more contrast and dimension, which makes the wood look more realistic. For the handles, I decided to use these Dollar Tree towering blocks. I was so excited when I realized they would work, but I choose to do the super glue and hot glue and leave it on for a couple hours before I paint them black, just to make sure that they can be tugged on really hard and they're going to stay on, and boy did they ever. I think it's because it's cloth under there, but they are on there good. I would tear the thing apart if I actually tried to remove those, so I was really happy about that. And I was so happy too, because I realized when I was making this wasn't planned, that this kind of looks like those old antique post office file boxes, which is just perfect for farmhouse decor. So I end up loving this, you guys. For this craft, you're going to need a large vase. They sell these at the Dollar Trees and at the 99-cent store, and you can usually find them at thrift stores too. Mine came from my husband. He bought me some roses from a floral shop, but it was just that bright red that did not go with my home decor. So I took it outside and I spray painted it with a Rust-Oleum paint that was both primer and paint. And now I'm using one of these decorative napkins, and I'm just after the pink rose right there. Now with the napkin, I do love the water method where you just go around the edges with water, because I love the way the napkin looks when you shred it and it gets all furry and uneven, and I just think it looks brilliant when you put it on something that's curvy. You really can't see not as much anyway. You can't see where the edges, where it kind of begins and ends. I guess it makes it look more like it's part of the vase rather than paper just on top of it. It blends in nicely. So now I'm going to take a cream color, you guys, that I made. You can see the jar there. The antique white I've mentioned before in previous videos looks almost like a yellow to me, so I squirted about an inch in that salad dressing jar there. I washed it first, of course, and then I just added paint to the rest of it, just white acrylic paint. That's it, to get this beautiful cream color, because again, with French country, really white is more the farmhouse or the shabby chic. With French country, you're going to find more creams, although I love cream for farmhouse too, but definitely with French country, you gotta try to stick with the creams. Or if you do white, you really have to, I hate saying dirty it up, but you really gotta make it look distressed if you're gonna do white, where you almost like brush like a whole dark color over the top and wipe it off. And here I'm using the water-based stain. I've spoken about this before, and I'm going to start with a baby wipe and this stain. I mix the stain with a little bit of black acrylic paint too, because I don't want it quite as reddish. I want a little bit more of a dark walnut color. And I'm so delicate with the baby wipe because of what I spoke about earlier in this video, where I'm worried about washing off the acrylic paint underneath, which actually with this one I'm not so worried about it, because I do purposely want to rub some of that off. I definitely want different textures. I want it to look like it was painted one color and then repainted, and it's just a very old vase now with multiple colors of paint on, but I just wasn't getting the look I was going for. So I added a little bit of water to that stain and just go for it with a brush. And I take this pink sponge and start sweeping it, and finally, there we go. Now I was getting the look I was going for. This is working out really, really well for this particular craft. So I like to show you the steps I do too, and what works and what doesn't work, just in case you guys find you're in the same situation. It kind of saves you, hopefully, time and hassle if you can see that. So of course, I'm just doing my process of aging and distressing and antiquing this little vase to make it look more like it's French country decor. And now I'm just kind of looking for a perfect side to put my imagery down on. I'm still not happy, so I kind of twirl it around a little bit again. You can see me do it there to get where I want it to go. I am really picky that way. I have to have like the perfect side, and because of that, you can see where I decide to leave my thumb down on the image to hold it in place, and then apply the Mod Podge just at the top first, glue it down, and then do the bottom and the sides. I mean, I'm working in sections here because I don't want to lose even the angle or placement of the rose. Now what you see me doing here is just misting it with some water. I do want some wrinkles left behind, but I want them to be very, very petite, hopefully so that they imitate the look of a cracked paint and adds to that antiqued and distressed look. So the next step is to dry brush some burnt umber that's been mixed with a bit of black over the front to accentuate and bring out those cracks so that you can see them. And this is what it looks like. I think that came up so, so beautiful. It was exactly the look I was going for. and it dries overnight, and the next morning I use a little carbon paper, and I want the carbon paper to be the actual word. I'm not doing this to get like a template and then go over it with a marker. I want everything to look old and antiqued, and the ink from the carbon paper is perfect for that, and I knew it would be. There it is. And I love the way that this vase came out. For this next DIY, you're going to need the Dollar Tree lattice. I took it outside and I gave it a coat of spray paint. I used this one right here, the Rust-Oleum 2x Ultra Cover. It's a paint and primer mix. And while that's drying, I'm going to go back to that bed skirt that I found at the thrift store, and I cut off the bottom part. This time I'm showing you I'm going to use 3 layers because I want it to look like a drop cloth. So it's really wrinkled. I go ahead and use a little bit of spray water just to get the wrinkles out, and I iron really well because we're going to be applying some words here. So the next step is freezer paper. A lot of you came on and told me about freezer paper. I have heard of it before. I will tell you, if you print directly on the waxy side of the freezer paper, it dirties your ink heads and you have to clean them. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. And here I'm just measuring out the freezer paper. I'm going to measure out the material, and I'm going to measure out some cardstock as well, all the size of the printer paper, so that I can put this through my printer. And this is when I realized I need to make it a little bit smaller for it to fit on my project when I did the measurements. And I'm cutting off that seam there too because it has to be nice and thin to go through my printer. So here's the fun part with freezer paper. You put it down, waxy side down on the material. So the paper side is up and the shiny side is down on your material. And then you're going to go ahead and iron. You got to be patient, but you've got to iron back and forth and let it melt onto the material, and it will stick nicely for you to make it nice and easy when you feed it through your printer, and you won't get all those little black spots. Sometimes I like the ink smearing. If I'm going for a really rustic distressed look, I actually like that. But for this DIY, because I'm doing like a little country cottage front porch, I wanted it to be nice and clean. So I'm just pressing here and ironing, and you don't really even have to put the cardstock underneath it, because at first I put the cardstock and then my printer didn't seem to like it very much, so I removed the cardstock and I just put it through paper material, and it worked perfectly. So you put your material face down. Most printers, you have to put your material face down when you're feeding it through, and that will put the print on the material and not on the paper. And this is what we end up with. Now this is a free printable for you. It will be down below in my description box. I also made one with the print of flowers in the middle in case some of you want to have that. I left it empty in the middle because I had an idea. I end up changing it because it didn't quite measure out correctly, and I don't know, I just didn't like the look of it. It looked a little too busy, so I ended up changing it. But next step here is to bend off the bottom. I was going to leave them on there to kind of make the bottom may be a little thicker. I was thinking it'll be like a pouch, but I end up going, oh, let me see how hard this is to break off. And I just bend it back and you can tell it's totally flimsy. It just comes right off. So I think, okay, better. We're going to remove those. So if you have some wire cutters or big, not wire cutters, but those big like bolt cutters, super easy. You could just go along and cut all these off, but I don't have anything like that. So now I'm going to go about making my little pocket on here, and I'm just measuring, and I'm going to use hot glue. That's perfectly fine. It will hold just fine. And because I used 3 layers of material, I did take the hot glue and glue all of those together. You can see me doing it right here. I just want to show you. I actually took and glued each layer together so that we don't have any problems with slipping and sliding or moving around. But I'm just having fun here and kind of making it up as I go. I know I want the front folded, so I'm going to do that next. You can see me doing it here. And it's just going to form a super cute little pocket, and you'll see what we do next. I wish I could put bigger pieces of material through my printer, but unfortunately it has to be the size of a printer paper piece. And so I had to take the piece I put through the printer and glue that on. And now I'm going to give it a nice edge with some of this gingham print ribbon just to hide the edges there. I thought about fraying them, and I thought that would also be a super cute look. But then again, this is going to be on my front door. So if you want kind of a statement piece where people walk by and they see it and it's noticeable, I didn't want to do anything too subtle. And I'm also going kind of with a very bright, cheerful, colorful look on my porch. Like I said, a little country cottage look. And for that, I wanted to stay in line with that. You know, usually with the farmhouse, I kind of keep it subtle, maybe neutral even, but this time I want to go a little more colorful and make my porch a really cheerful, and it worked. The energy out there is so happy. I've got hummingbirds flying around and bird feeders and so many. I might show you my porch coming up before the summer's over. But here's where I make the decision to cover the words at the bottom. I just felt like it was a little too busy, so I took this medallion from the Dollar Tree with the flowers and I just hot glue it over that to cover up the words. And now I'm doing a little buffalo check ribbon bow. I'm going to put a little flower in the center there, again, to match the pillows, keep it nice and bright and cheerful. It's tea time on the porch, you guys. And here's my Dollar Tree flowers mixed with Walmart. Those are Walmart and Dollar Tree flowers mixed right there. Love their spring flowers at Walmart, and Dollar Tree's really upped their game this year as well. They've got some beautiful florals, and I'm just filling in the little pocket with flowers, and that's it. I absolutely love the way this came out. For this next DIY, I saw this on Pinterest and I fell in love. But here's the funny story. That green lid right there I found at a thrift store. It never came to the Dollar Tree. The glass is from the Dollar Tree, but it never came to my Dollar Tree, those little lids. And I took this wood and the Dremel, believe it or not, I cut circles with a Dremel. I just kind of lift it up and down and stay on the edge. And I used this hammered spray paint by Rust-Oleum. So I started off thinking I'm going to use a really strong glue. I'm going to use Fix-All by Super Glue so that this puppy sticks. So I glue it down. I put something heavy on it overnight. It's totally flat. I glue the glass down using the same glue, and the glass was holding like, you can't get it off. But there's a story coming up with this lid, you guys. I end up putting it outside, spray painting it, and leaving it in the sun for about 8 hours. Now we get really hot sun where I live, but the plastic, I learned later when I try to fix this, 3 times and I go to blow dry the paint to dry it, that the heat makes the plastic disengage from the glue. It does something to that plastic. I don't know what it is, but anyway, we'll get back to that. I go about galvanizing it using pewter gray and pavement by Apple Barrel and a makeup sponge. And the magic trick to getting your galvanizing looking good after you apply all those little amoeba shapes is you just use a iridescent silver paint and tap on a generous layer with a sponge like you see me doing there, and you make sure all of it is covered with the iridescent silver paint, and you will get such a beautiful result. Wait and see. It looks so legitimate and it's so simple to do. So as I'm blow drying this, I'm thinking, I waited too long to stumble on this lid. I am not settling for any kind of buckling or bubbling. And so I tear it off and I go, what the heck is going on under here? And look, the glue almost looks burned from being in the sun. Look at that, it looks fried. It just turned weird. And I don't know what happened under there. I guess I cooked the glue, but the fix to this for me was to remove all the glue, sand it, get some poster board, glue the poster board on top of the wood, and then use Mod Podge to glue the plastic lid on top of the poster board that was glued to the wood. And then I put some very heavy weights with flat wood. I put a flat wood piece down and some 2 5-pound weights on top, and it turned out perfect. This ends up being my favorite DIY, you guys, but it's a funny story because this was definitely a pain. For this DIY, I'm using 2 glass bowls from the Dollar Tree, and that candlestick is actually from the Dollar Tree too. I got that when it very first opened up in my area. They don't carry the tall candlesticks anymore, and if you can't find that, go ahead and use 2 small ones and glue them upside down onto each other. Now for this DIY, I definitely want it to stay put, and I chose to glue the candlestick upside down. So I'm using E6000 for a super strong hold on this, and I do let it dry overnight before I go out and spray paint it. So I don't know about you all, but when these things are not centered, they drive me nuts. I'm going to stand up in a minute so I don't get my head in the camera, and you can see me making sure that it's centered. But when it dries overnight, I take it outside and I give it a coat of this Rust-Oleum chalk paint in chiffon cream, really beautiful color, and I spray paint it upside down. So I'm showing you here when I'm rubbing my hand that there's no paint inside the bowls. Now the problem I ran into, I didn't want to take a chance. I want it to be versatile in my kitchen, and if I want to store some oranges down at the bottom level or some bananas, I didn't want to worry about any toxicity issues. Even, I still would stick with the thick skinned fruit at the bottom just to be, sure. But because of that, I chose to do the center in a non-toxic acrylic paint. So this is the color Antique Parchment from Apple Barrel Paint. It is a non-toxic acrylic paint, so it will be fine for the food to lean against. I'm not even going to seal the center because I don't want to have to worry. If you want, you can look into different sealants that are food safe. There's a lot of information online about that. I do end up having to add a little bit of white to this paint just to get a perfect match, because when it dries it goes a little dark. But the edging in the Dollar Tree bowls in the glass is absolutely gorgeous. It is so high end, and it is so perfect for Cottagecore DIY home decor. For this DIY, this is another treasured thrift find that I found in February 2020. That was actually the last time I thrifted. I grabbed so much stuff because I knew the storm was coming. There it is, February 10th, you guys. It says it right there, 2020. It was $5.99. I got it for $3 on that half day off, and I was originally going to do that dupe right there from Antique Farmhouse, but then I saw this on the Cottagecore scene, and the greens, there's that certain green. It's really hot. You saw it earlier. The pictures I'm actually showing you along with the reveals are from actual photos that show Cottagecore decor, and they have that really neat green color. I absolutely love it, and it's easily assimilated into farmhouse decor as well, and I thought it would be fun just to kind of have a little bit more accent in my home. So I start off spray painting this twice, but I don't want the smooth finish, so I'm still going to go ahead and brush on some Kilz, K-I-L-Z, white primer with a brush, just so we get the faux wood lines, because that looks better. I think this was originally like a child's little stepping stool or something, and so it was really, it's that fake wood that's really shiny, so I just wanted, you know, to make it look more like wood. And I know a lot of you are freaking out right now going, oh, what is she doing with that color green? Don't worry, it's all going to come together. Have faith. we are improvising because we did not have the right color green, and I'm just one of those people, you know, I don't really want to go somewhere and leave in the middle of my project. I just want to make it work, and so I just knew I could make it all come together with my mixing of colors and different layers of colors. I knew we would land in the right place. So I start off adding a little bit of the charcoal gray on top, and I realized now that's too dark to start with. We need a lighter gray. And these are all apple barrel paints. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but the color that I'm doing right here is a little bit of the Country Gray by Apple Barrel, and I'm just kind of dry brushing it on. I'm going to use a baby wipe to smear it. And by the way, the green color I used is called Lime Sherbet. That's the color, just in case you want to recreate this on another DIY. But essentially what I end up doing is just giving a super cloudy gray look over the entire green surface. So everywhere there's green, I go through and dry brush, really dry brush, where it's so smeared it's like a blurred cloud. I hope that makes sense. You can see how I'm pressing the brush really hard. It's because it's almost like I'm trying to take the paint off, and I go through this process about 4 times until I literally change the color of the green. Now here comes the second coat, and you can see how dramatically, you know, it's already changed so much. It doesn't look like the original green, and I'm going to continue to do that to the entire piece. And something I do want to mention too, I do end up finding it very helpful to dip my brush in a little bit of water, tap out just the excess moisture, and then use a very wet brush to do this, because it kind of helps smear the paint more. I hope that makes sense again. It made the paint have a great glide factor, and it made it so that it was like a watercolor covering the entire green. So that also created this look here where it looks like a totally different green. And now I'm taking the color Pavement by Apple Barrel, and I'm just doing a little bit of distressing on the edge of this. And for those of you that are new to my channel, I love using my fingers. Sorry, I just feel like I have more control. I'll use my palm, my fingers, whatever I need to. As you can see, I'm just kind of smearing it here, and anything goes, because this is supposed to be that little distressed country look. So don't worry if you make a mistake, if you decide to kind of age something in the same color and same look, it's not that big of a deal. And lastly, I'm taking some white, and I'm smearing white all over the top of this, because it was a little darker or dirtier maybe than I wanted it to be, and the white does the trick. So these are the Dollar Tree rub-on transfers. They're my favorite ones. Thank you to the subscriber who sent me these as well. She sent me a bunch of these, and they are perfect for the cottagecore look. If you get a chance and go online and look, you'll see a lot of vines painted sideways on ladders, on tables, on little stools like this. It couldn't get any more perfect than these rub-on transfers. So I'm going sideways, and I love that none of them are the same, because for this piece, those kinds of accents make it look more high-end. You know, it doesn't have that cookie cutter print like a factory print. It looks very, very custom made. A little tricky around the bend here, you guys. You got to hold it down really tight. And I'm using the Dollar Tree embossing tool. Shout out to Camaro from Dying to DIY. That is a channel I found from YouTube's autoplay. You know, when you're watching YouTube, how they just move you on to the next video. And thank goodness, because she is a really fun channel to watch. Check her out when you get a chance. Super cute girl. Reminds me of my son's girlfriend. But anyway, I'm just doing little accents on the sides, on the corners, not very many, because I think less is more with this. It looks more expensive, but this came up absolutely perfect. I couldn't have, you know, wished for it to be better than it came out. It's my favorite DIY today. Let me know what you guys think. For this next DIY, you're going to need 2 of these buckets from the Dollar Tree, and I took them outside and I spray painted them with this paint and primer mix. I'm also showing you how windy it is, you guys. I usually don't take you out to show you the spray painting part because I have to do it inside of a box because it literally flies all over me. I got it on my lens once, and I just, you know, I'll do it whenever I can, but I tell you, the wind is intense lately. So I'm just cutting off the furry bits on the twine there. They were really obvious once it was painted. And now this is a nice little trick I like to do with the stencils. I like to take masking tape and just cover any nearby stencil holes off so that I don't accidentally paint, you know, through the other holes, because sometimes, no matter how careful I am, even if I'm using a small little blotting tool for stencils, I still go outside of my lines. So that's it right there. It looks super good. Now I take a baby wipe and kind of wipe this off, and really I recommend, if you do this DIY, that you go into the bathroom and rinse it off completely and dry it and come back with a brand new stencil. The paint comes off really easy, off like brand new looking again, even with black. So I should have done that because I did have a little black paint afterwards with the second one, and it was no big deal. You'll see me here take another baby wipe and wipe it off, and it comes right off. See that one right there on the side? I'm showing you, I'm rubbing it and it comes right off, and you have to rub really soft, you know, because I didn't want to take any of the paint off by accident. Even though I let it dry for about 3 hours, I'm always a little wary unless something has had about 24 hours to fully cure. And now I'm just using the latex paint here by Behr. I got it at Home Depot. It's in the color Midnight. I love that paint. You can see what it's done to the twine, or what it's starting to do. I touch it up in all those little areas where there's still twine peeking. And I'm just taking my paint pen right now and adding a little bit of black at the bottom just to tie this in. And I definitely choose to use the paint pen to do the edges because I was really nervous, since they're 2 opposite colors, that if I made a mistake, you know, you get that smooth look when you spray paint. That's the thing with high-end DIYs, you guys. They don't have that rustic distress look so much. So if you make a boo-boo, you gotta kind of start all over. It just messes up the whole look. So different approaches for different DIYs, but I love the way this DIY came out. I love black and white with the fresh, vibrant green. It looks so expensive and clean and crisp when it's done, so it was worth the extra time. I left the floral part in here because a bunch of you asked me to. You wanted to watch how I do that, but I love this DIY. It's so expensive looking. So my sister loves this milk. I decided to try it, but my husband actually washed it out for me because he said that's an absolutely beautiful container. And I said, you're right. So I took this and I cut it out at the top here just to get rid of that lid. And I'm using a Dollar Tree craft knife. I think it comes with 6 or 8 blades. I can't remember, but more than one blade, and it is amazingly sharp. Thank you for all the suggestions you came on and told me about to buy a craft knife. I haven't had a chance yet. So when I was in the Dollar Tree a month ago, I grabbed this and it was shockingly sharp. It's sharper than the one I spent $16 on from Walmart. So if you see one of those craft little knives, make sure you pick them up. It's a great deal. Now I'm taking my glue gun here to gently melt the edge to make it curl inwards so that it doesn't look like a plastic container. And now I'm taking some cuticle clippers just to clip off any unevenness. And, you're just going about making it as even and perfect as you can so it doesn't look like a plastic bottle. And this is what it should look like when you're all done. I took it outside to give it a coat of paint and primer so that everything I paint from this point on will actually stick. And now I'm taking some hot glue on low temperature and making some downward lines. Now I'm going to show you the 3 different looks I get in case some of you like it, just to give you extra ideas, but this isn't actually what I end up doing. And by the way, you can also use an iron to melt the top of this container as well. I didn't want to take mine out, but I've seen people do that where they turn the iron on high and just press it down. You'll get more of an even result, I think. And now I'm using that color terracotta in the paint that is no longer in, they don't make it anymore, but you can use any color you want. It was a brown and black idea. I thought, oh, I'll paint the top and bottom, like this, and then dry brush a little bit, and I thought that was kind of pretty, but I didn't like it. It still looked like plastic. So I decided to paint the whole thing black because black is always high end, right? And this is going to be outside. So I thought, well, we can't leave the glue on there because with the changes of humidity and heat and cold, I was worried the glue would, disengage and be flapping in the wind there, and it would be really embarrassing. And now this is the look we end up with, and I still don't like it. It's a nice look, but it's just not what I was going for. So I put some gold on it, and I definitely don't like it. This doesn't match my decor style at all. So I go back and I'm doing something completely different. I'm putting just a little bit more primer on there to make sure my next process sticks, and I want to try and cover up all of the little grooves and lines from the, I guess, when I peeled the glue off, it lifted some of the paint here and there. So I'm just kind of adding a little extra layer just to get it more even, I guess, for the next process, but I probably didn't really need to do that. I wanted a color that was brown with a bit of maroon in it. So when I mixed paints and I finally got the color I was after, I went ahead and added some baking soda because I'm definitely going to have to add texture. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me because I was holding it and I knew it was plastic, but it just still, to me, and I'd love to hear that in the comments below. I don't know if you can tell from the camera, but it still looked like plastic even when I spray painted it, and I just wasn't happy with that. I wanted it to look expensive. So now I'm texturing it with a very thick baking soda paint mix, and I took the same color, added a bit of white paint, and we're going to put it on the top and bottom, and we're going to kind of do that color blend again, but with the dark color and the light color, and we end up with an absolutely beautiful result. Lots of texture, and you definitely cannot tell it's plastic. I'm totally pleased with how this turns out. Saw this on Pinterest last summer and it got me thinking that I could make this on miniature size. So you're going to need some paint sticks, some of these tumbling tower game blocks, some 1-quart paint sticks, and some of the Dollar Tree little plaques. Now those can be substituted for paint sticks. It's just I have them and I want to use them because a lovely subscriber sent them to me, so I do want to use my craft supplies that I have. And I knew I had a lot of really great ideas. I had 10 DIYs, and so I was worried I might run short. Now, as you see, I'm using the towering blocks to glue those 3 paint sticks together. That's what's holding them together as a brace. I use the 1-gallon paint sticks that don't have those little curvatures at the top because it just wastes a lot of wood. If you don't have that, you just substitute it by making it a little bit smaller. You can cut that off if you want, but this is still going to show you how to make the DIY. So the same thing for that little shelf wood piece there that you see me putting down on top of the towering blocks. That's equal to 3 of the paint sticks, so you could easily make a shelf out of 3 paint sticks. Just cut it down and hold it together with wood glue, maybe some support with a small craft stick underneath like a pallet sign, and it would work perfectly fine. So now we have the problem with the little towering block showing in the front there, so I want to make that I want to make it look nice and finished. So I'm going to go ahead and add the 1-quart paint sticks, also known as large crafting sticks, to the front, and I'm going to do that with wood glue along the shelf and then just hot glue on the edge there for an instant hold. So unlike the one I saw on Pinterest, I want mine to have like a little rooftop. I thought that would be so cute. You can use more paint sticks for this, easy peasy, but I'm going to use some scrap wood because these are pieces that are kind of awkward shape, and I honestly don't throw anything away, you guys. I try to use everything in my craft supply, so I'm choosing to make that part of my roof, just a little bit of scrap wood, and I'm going to hold it down with a combination of hot glue and wood glue. And for those of you that are new to my channel, I've spoken about this many times before in videos. Wood glue has the ability at a molecular level to become one with the wood grains. So oftentimes you'll try to pull apart the wood and it will stick with the glue. So best glue you can use for raw wood. It does need to be raw wood. Once you paint it, you've got something on it, unless it's a really like dry paint, like a whitewash or something where there's a lot of wood grains still. You can almost tell by feeling it. If you can feel that wood, the wood glue will work fine. If you have a super thick coating on it, a latex paint or some kind of varnish, it's not going to work anymore. But it's great for holding glued, raw wood down. Now you saw me blow dry the little rooftop there because I'm not going to have time to put it up. You can't put it upside down. It kind of has to dry right away. So that's how I did it. Now I'm taking some black poster board and I'm spraying that Krylon color in aluminum, and I'm blotting it to create a faux galvanized metal. Now I love the black poster board. And I thought I was so brilliant thinking of that because that's what I did with my kitchen countertops once. I kind of made like a faux countertop area and it looked great. It turned out I was watching a video, YouTuber, someone else did it too. They did it with white poster board, but it's a great way to make faux metal or anything that looks like that. Not so much galvanized, it kind of looks more like an aged metal, but it's perfect for this project. So you saw me with the scoring tool score it. At first I made them too big, so I went back and I cut them in half, and now it's perfect. Look at that, you guys. So that will be glued on the back when we're ready, but first we're going to stain this, and I'm using the Home Decor wax. You can use any antiquing wax for this, and a baby wipe. Now I just went straight with a baby wipe and the wax, and it was like skids, you know what I mean? The gliding factor was gone. I just couldn't get it to be really smooth because the wood was dry and porous. I tried adding some water to the wipe. Then I used a brush, and I finally found out what worked the best was my paintbrush dipped in a little bit of water. I kind of left it slopping wet. You can see the water on the side there in the applesauce cup. By the way, don't throw away your applesauce cups or your lids to your margarines or your coffee or whatever, because that is great for palettes and for crafts, and you're going to throw them away anyway, so recycle and reuse. But anyway, water mixed with a little bit of this wax on a brush is the best application for me. It just went on really smooth after that. It was gliding around. Now you're going to see me take this painter pen and just apply it at the top there where the stain wouldn't take, because the glue was there. Even though you can't see it, it was interfering with, you know, the ability to stain that area. So that was the solution. It still looks nice and rustic, and it's where the rooftop would probably get a little bit dirty anyway. So with this part of the craft, I decided to glue only where the little folds were actually hitting the wood. I just used a little dot of hot glue on the front and the back, and that was it. And I absolutely love this. So I want to take a moment here to explain in this video. Here's a 5-gallon paint stick, which I substitute with a $1.12 redwood lath, which is 8 feet. Now I'm showing you here how the lath is identical in width and in thickness. And the one that I found is actually super smooth. You know, someone said, oh, the lath is rough. That's true, but if you dig through, there's a lot of duds, but you will find some that are absolutely gorgeous, and I'll show you in a minute here. The sheen, you can see how it's shiny. You don't even need to sand the piece of lath that I'm holding right now. It actually feels like there's clear varnish on it. But it's a lot cheaper to craft this way, and so I'm using it whenever I need a 5-gallon paint stick. However, if you have a 5-gallon paint stick, use that. And to be fair, I am going to be cutting my lath down into 17-inch strips, which is the exact same size that I would cut if I was using the 5-gallon paint sticks. I would cut right where the curve is. That's why I don't like buying the paint sticks, because you lose a lot of wood. But I got you covered. I got some DIYs coming up for the top of those paint sticks, so hang tight. We're going to be doing that. And I cut my lath into 17-inch strips, and then I spray paint them white. For this next DIY, you're going to need the 1-gallon paint sticks, the 1-quart paint sticks, and I'm going to be breaking up those 1-gallon paint sticks into 2 sets of 8, because I'm making 2 DIYs. We're making some tissue box covers, you guys, because my husband and I, we like to have it right by our bed on the bedside table, and I tried hiding it out of sight, out of mind, and it was just super inconvenient. It would wake us up because we'd have to open drawers to go get the tissue. So I thought the solution to this is just to make it really pretty so it blends in with my farmhouse decor and no one will even notice. So I did, like I said, end up making 2. So I took it outside, used my Dremel, and I cut them because I had 26 and another piece of wood altogether. Now the ends, I'm using a solid piece of wood. I was going to use paint sticks and make it like a crate, but I have scrap wood, and again, I was worried I was going to run short because I had a lot of good ideas for the DIY. So in this video, whenever I can substitute with something I know measures perfectly and will work just fine, you know, with a paint stick, because I want to not cheat in a way where you guys wouldn't be able to recreate it. So I make sure I use things that measure up and can be substituted with a paint stick. So don't worry if you see me doing the solid wood. And it's another idea for you too. I hope I give you additional inspiration. I mean, you can also use scrap wood or the little wood squares from the Dollar Tree. Lots of options there. Some people may even want to glue the little towering blocks together and make the ends. It's totally up to you. But I like to use what I have. I have so much wood from free wood, scrap wood, and my goal is to try and use all of it because it was once a little tree, you guys, so I try to use it. So here you see me cutting down 2 little pieces on either side there. That's gonna leave a little opening for the tissue to pop out of. And now I'm just taking the 1-quart paint sticks and I'm going to be measuring for a brace on the inside because I did use just hot glue. And by the way, you guys, if you use hot glue with raw wood and you want any shot of it holding together in a strong way, you can either use a super high quality hot glue like Gorilla Glue. I've heard good things, I've never tried it, but use high temperature hot glue. That will work really well. At least I've had good experience that way. Even when the glue's cheap, it still holds together. But you can see I put a dot of the wood glue on each one of those paint sticks at the top, and then I glued the braces down so that it was sure to be super strong when we're yanking those tissues out. So now I'm going to go ahead and paint it white. I'm just giving this a light coat. I want it to be, you know, solid but still where you can tell it's wood. So I'm not going to use any spackling or anything. I like the look of the palette. And I'm going to be taking these 1-quart craft sticks and using this forged hammer Rust-Oleum paint that I have, and I give it a coat of spray paint there because I decided the ends where they meet, I just wanted them to look a little more finished and add a little bit of, you know, just fun character because my decor is farmhouse and it's rustic, and I just thought that would be super, super cute. And here you see me using a Sharpie in gray just to cover the top edges there because I didn't want to take a chance and get any gray paint on the white part. So I used a Sharpie pen, and that gray pen, a lot of people ask me where I find that. I found it at Walmart. It was with a set of like unusual colors. And here I'm using the Dollar Tree little pearl beads. I'm painting them black, and voila! Tissue box holder. I love this. And you'll never guess what you need for this DIY. You need some more paint sticks. I'm using the 1-gallon ones, and this one, it doesn't really matter if you have the little curvature ones or the ones with the straight tops. I'm just showing you the ones I used, and some of the towering wooden blocks from the Dollar Tree. So I didn't want to bore you showing how I glued this together, but it's pretty self-explanatory. I took 2 towering wooden blocks and I put them in each of the 4 corners, and then just went about cutting the paint sticks and gluing everything together. But here's the exciting part, because I read a comment a while ago on another creator's video. Well, I shouldn't say a while ago, I think it's been a year, but anyway, somebody was asking, and it got so many likes, it was at the top, you know what I mean? It was unavoidable to not see. Does anybody know what to do with the top of the paint sticks? So I was looking at these and I had a couple ideas. One of them, I thought, you know, these look like little bottles with the little curvature in the corner there. So I went ahead and sanded that to make it, you know, accentuate it more and bring it out. And now I'm painting them white. And while those are drying, I'm going to go ahead and give the crate a coat of white paint as well. after they were dry, I went ahead and started edging them with black paint to kind of get that faux enamel look. And I'm just using a sponge, super easy. And I'm going to do the same thing to the crate. You'll see in a minute. I'm just going to kind of edge that with black. That's more to distress that, I think, and make it look a little older. I just didn't want it so clean and sparkly white. It's not to make it look like enamel or anything like that, but it matches, it kind of ties in what I'm going to do next. So using some of these Dollar Tree stickers, I'm going to be spelling out the word milk on these and making little mini milk bottles. Isn't that too cute, you guys? I'm sorry. This was so cute when I was doing it. You could also put this on a sign if you wanted. You could make them 3D by gluing 4 of them together and make a vase. All kinds of possibilities here, and I just stick 2 salad dressing bottles in there, which I do end up taking outside, spray painting them white and wrapping some twine on the top because it just looked better. But this came out so cute. It was so simple to do. It's a classic paint stick DIY, but what made it extra special is you didn't have to throw away the top of your paint sticks. So most of us have probably seen this little farmhouse console table at some point, and I thought, wouldn't it be cute if I was to make one? So I'm going to be using those 1-gallon paint sticks and some regular 1-gallon paint sticks with a little curve on it, and some 5-gallon paint sticks, some 1-quart paint sticks, also known as large craft sticks. And I started off, because now I'm running short of paint sticks, I started off using these shims that I got from Lowe's, and somebody came on, thank you so much, a long time ago. A subscriber came on and said, hey, if you glue those together in the opposite direction, it'll make like a perfect little paint stick. It takes the place of that. So again, same width as the 1-gallon paint stick. It's just I'm using my shims because I don't want to run short just for the bottom of this craft. I'm also using some of the furring strip there because I bought 20 of them, you guys. They're cheap. They're such a good deal. Now, if you don't have a furring strip, no problem. Just glue 3 of the, if you want it to be the same thickness, it's 3 of the 5-gallon paint sticks. Just glue them together like I glued the shims together. If you don't want them that thick, you can glue 2 and probably get away with it. But we're making the little legs, and since I had the furring strip, I want to use what I have, but everything can be made with paint sticks. And of course, I'm just measuring now. And at the final end of this, I will give you the measurements of my little console table. Now, this takes a place, like anything else, a 1-tiered tray, a riser, even a 2-tier tray. This is a place to hold your little trinkets, your little fun, any miniatures that you make, anything inside. It can hold some of your craft supplies. It can hold spices in a kitchen. Oh my gosh, this would make such a cute spice rack just for those spices that you use all the time. I have some that I hardly ever reach for, but there's some I reach for all the time, and this is perfect for that. Now, there's a little trick I was doing. I took those 1-gallon little craft sticks, or 1-gallon paint sticks. Oh no, I'm sorry, they're 1-quart paint. They're for epoxies and stuff. That's what they are, but we call them large craft sticks. And I measured them by picking them up and putting one over the other until I could count how many I needed and place them out evenly. I just needed to know how many I needed to cut. So if you need to rewind that, go ahead, but that's a great way for figuring out how many you need to cut ahead of time. And then I just took some hot glue. Everything's going to be secured with wood glue underneath as well, but I took hot glue initially on high, on a high setting, so it's a hot temperature, high setting hot glue. and I'm using that to put this all together initially. And on the top, I didn't cut those down at all. Those are the full 1 gallon paint stir sticks that I have that don't have that little curvature on the end. If you have that curve on the end, you'd have to modify the measurements on this. But this was such a cute idea, you guys. I was so excited when I thought of this. I've been wanting to do it for about 8 months, but then the holidays came and I didn't have time. But I have been wanting one of these for so long. This is another one of those crafts. When I was done, it brought me joy. I looked at this and just thought, oh my gosh, you are cute. You are so cute. So I do on the sides at the bottom put, you know, a side piece, as you saw. Here in the front, I just do the front and the back. I kind of like the way it looks a little rough on the sides there, so I don't cover that. And I'm using wood glue, of course, to help everything stay together. And then we're going to use this Home Decor by Folk Art antiquing wax. And this time I craft smarter. I definitely water this down and I use it with a brush, and it works perfect. In fact, I think I did this right after I did the very first DIY, that tall shelving unit with the faux galvanized metal behind it and the little like birdhouse rooftop. I did it right afterwards because I had already, you know, had it out and watered down. So I thought, oh, I better grab this little table and do it. Now I'm just taking the color Pavement by Apple Barrel Paint and adding some distressing along the edges to make it look like a real little farmhouse table. I absolutely love the way this came out, you guys. I'm still thinking about where I want to put it. Right now, I'm thinking the kitchen for my spices. I'd love to hear some input from you if you have some ideas. There's the measurements, by the way. That is the height, the width, and the depth that I'm showing you, just in case you want to recreate this. But that's it, you guys, and I absolutely love this. This is my inspiration piece on anthropology, and it is an inspiration piece, so it's not a dupe. Dupe is short for duplicate, so I don't show it at the end because I want you guys just to get the feel for what I'm going for. I liked the colors, I liked the height, and when I was looking at high-end decor online, I saw there were other versions of this. Some bottles are tall, and some have tall, like spouts, or I'm not sure what that's called, but like the part on the top. So it got my creative juices flowing, you guys. So I used 3 different kinds of bottles in different shapes and sizes. And I'm using rolls here now that are from the center of like a heavyweight foil. These are super, super thick ones, the kind that you could actually hurt someone when you hit them. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but like it was hard to cut even with a brand new craft knife. I had to saw and saw. They are super thick. You'll see it when they stand up. They're not flimsy. And the trick is they have to fit over the top of the bottle perfectly when you press it down to the base. So I start off by measuring them, and of course I'm making them in cascading heights with tall, medium, and short. And I'm using joint compound to join these 2 things together, you know. On all of the bottles, I'm going to join that cardboard piece down to the bottle and make it look like it's one connected piece. And yes, you can use spackling for this craft as well. It's just I have some joint compound I haven't used in a while, and I thought it would be nice to use it up. This is the next day when it's dried, and I just lightly, ever so lightly, just sand off any areas that are sticking up that look fake. And I did have some cracking just on the small one, no big deal. For this one, because I wanted it to dry quicker, I did use spackling and I just filled it in, and we are good to go. Since this is glass, I am using the Kilz primer again, K-I-L-Z, and I do need 2 coats of this primer on each of the bottles. I decide to go ahead and use the color Granite Gray by Apple Barrel Paint here to cover the entire bottles up. Now you'll notice I didn't use primer on top of the backling or joint compound, either one. It wasn't necessary because I knew the paint was going to adhere, but I thought that this would be a good base color to kind of get the look going that I wanted. And it's not going to be exactly like I said, it's not going to be exactly like the Anthropology piece. It's more with the Anthropology piece, I liked the color blend or color combos. I liked the heights, you know, how they were cascading. I liked that part. So here I am mixing up some white acrylic paint with a little bit of water because the look I'm going for is a streaky look. So I knew if I mixed my paint up with a little bit of water, I would get where it kind of trickled down in rivets almost and gave me a look that would help, I guess, as an under. I've explained in previous videos, it's usually many different processes, or at least more than one process to get a look that you're going for. So I knew I needed my base color to kind of have a look and dimension of its own when I go to do the next step, so that it gives more dimension to that step, if that makes sense. And it just adds to the whole final look, and that's what makes your crafts look really, really high end. So now I'm taking a sponge and I'm cutting 3 different sponges in 3 different shapes here. And this is so I can sponge my colors on. So now I'm using Pewter Gray from Apple Barrel Paint. And these are all Apple Barrel Paint except for the terracotta color from the company that is now out of business, but you can use any color combination you want. I'm making this for my daughter's home because they have a coastal beach. You know, we live by the beach and they kind of have this boho coastal beach thing going on in their home, and I knew that these bottles would look absolutely gorgeous on her mantle, so that's what I'm going for. But you of course can use any color combination you want. The next color I choose is just a Granite Gray. I believe that's what that's called, but any gray would do. And again, I'm color washing. I'm tapping this on, and you can see me kind of going up and down into the other colors on purpose. And then you'll see me take the sponge and kind of drag it down too, so that you get those streaks. There I go. This is something that you're just playing with and kind of making all the colors blend in, and it's definitely uneven. There is no right or wrong here. You just do it by eye and you keep messing around with it until you get the look you like. And if you don't like it, you can always paint it again and start over. Just have fun. So now I'm using the color gray again, the first color that I painted, the very first one. And I'm adding white to it because, as you can see there, the blue that I used, I have a blue that's kind of like that coastal blue from Waverly, but I just felt it was like a little too dark for the color I was going, so I used a gray blue color, added white to it, and we're just doing the color blending again. And I took a baby wipe to blend it upwards and downwards, because as these colors go up, I want them to be lighter and softer and very, very muted and blended. So you can see the bottom is very textured. Then we have the blended gray, we have the blending blended terracotta color, and then the soft blue that kind of goes up into a light gray. And I didn't show you on the top lid, I also did the same thing, blending downwards with the That was a pewter gray right there. And then I'm taking an iridescent pearlescent silver paint by Folk Art, and I'm going over the entire thing with that silver paint to make it iridescent at the end here. You'll see me do it. The camera's not picking it up so well here. I'm trying to show you how it's shiny now and iridescent, but that's what I do to the top stems to make them look really, really high end. Last but not least, I used a gray color to paint the insides of the tops. I took all 3 bottles outside and painted it in a glossy finish, 2 coats so that they look like ceramic, but this craft came up absolutely stunning, and I hope the camera does it justice. If you enjoyed today's video and had fun, don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up. It is so fun seeing you all every week. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for watching. And as always, until the next video, breathe deep, fret not, and do things that make you happy.